So bullying. The title of the workshop is Bullying, Empathy, and Monkeys. So um, I wanted to go over really quickly sort of an operational definition of bullying. And like I said, this is based on my work for the last 5 years, going on 6 years now, in the state of New Hampshire. And my definition is one that I use working with schools, specifically to help folks start conversations to sort of get to the bottom of what is bullying, how do we figure out who's the bully, who's the victim. Cognitive empathy. Now I want to talk about monkeys. Talked about the intentional engagement of the brain. These are macaque monkeys. And if you want a lot of laughter, talk about macaque monkeys in a gymnasium full of 400 high school students. It's pretty amusing. These folks were studied by Giacomo Rizzolatti in the University of Parma. And they were studying brainwave patterns, trying to figure out brain morphology and development and patterns. Macaques have brains most similar to our own as humans. And that's why they study them. So they had this one particular monkey hooked up to a brain monitor, and they fed him, and they were recording what was going on in his brain as he was eating. And so they had just finished recording their data, or they were recording their data, and this monkey was sitting there still hooked up to the monitors, and behind the scientists, but in front of the monkey, were his cohort, his tribe, and they were freaking out because this guy was eating and they weren't. And so the scientists feeding time. So all of a sudden, the monkey that's hooked up to the computer is watching his buddies eat, and he's not eating, but his brain is doing the exact same thing that it was doing a couple minutes ago when he was eating. So the scientists, what is going on? How is this working? How is this possible? So that was the first time that anyone had realized that there's an actual part of our brain that is in charge of empathy. So there's literally a part of our brain, and each person is different. So you put all the people on the planet on a bell curve, everybody's going to be someplace in the middle, out on the edges. Our brains are going to react, some more strongly than others, when we see someone else. And so there's an actual part of us that has these reactions. And then they started doing the same experiments on humans, and they've done a lot of work on this. So this is a tool. Those of us that play games, whether it's in the classroom or out of a backpack or a kayak, or in a therapy session, the tools that we already know work, right? We already know that these things work, but think about them in a different way, right? What some of the research is starting to show is, and the reason that my anti-bullying work is connected to empathy, is that the more connected we are to one another, the less likely we are to bully one another. And also the less likely we are to feel bullied. So some of my favorite activities, I do one called Bodyguard. It's out of Project Adventure's Stepping Stones book. And I've got a really specific write-up on how to do it with to address empathy. And essentially, if folks aren't familiar with Bodyguard, it really, you have folks pair up, and one person volunteers to be the target, and one person volunteers to be the bodyguard, and they're in the middle of a circle.